Yes, we are live finally. So that's amazing. We're going live in my Facebook group. We're going live on the Facebook page, and we already have a viewer. So Vimarsha is online as well. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Expert Series, and I'm your host, Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni. Today we have an Ayurvedic gut health expert right from UK, Dr. Varalakshmi Yanamandra. I hope I said your name right, and
Yeah.
it's so amazing to have her. I've been a big fan of her. I follow her on Instagram. So if you haven't followed her on Instagram, you're missing out on a lot of Ayurvedic content, and she educates in the best possible way. So welcome, Dr. Varalakshmi. Varalakshmi, it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manjari. It's amazing to be in the show and to chat with you on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we have Vimarsha. I'm just going to say a quick hi. Hi, Vimarsha. Hi, Shane. Hi, Uttamji. Nice to see you all. So, for everyone, if you're watching this live, you can just say a quick hi. If you're watching this later as a replay, you can always put a hashtag as replay and post any of your questions. And I'll be more than happy to answer any of the questions that we have. So, today we are going to talk about hormones and gut health, right? And we always talk about the importance of gut health, but why is gut health so important is my first question to you. Like, why do we focus, or why should we focus on gut health when it comes to hormones and not just try to fix hormones directly?
Okay, so there is, I think nowadays in the past, maybe in the past decade or so, there is a lot of research has gone into understanding why gut health plays a huge role in the overall health. As a, if you fix your gut, there are so many studies that it could improve your skin, overall well-being, like stress, anxiety, even the mood, emotions, all these things, and also the nourishment and ultimately overall health. But how the gut is interconnected to hormones is, if we talk from Ayurvedic perspective, as you might know, as per Ayurveda, Agni is the concept that we can interrelate or actually, in a way has the same kind of functions that gut exhibits as per modern science. We can compare it to the concept of Agni in Ayurveda. And in Ayurveda, if you want to understand the hormones, Datvagni is how we actually say whenever we are talking about hormones. So, for the formation of good hormones, Agni or Jataragni, which is in our colon or which is in our stomach, and basically the gastrointestinal tract, is very important. So, if you don't have a proper digestion and nourishment, then the hormones, which are like the byproduct of that Agni, won't form properly. That is like from Ayurvedic in a very simple, simplified version. But as per modern science as well, if we take the example of estrogen, there are studies where it says that there are in our gut, the bad bacteria and good bacteria coexist. Okay, and it is believed that there are around 500 different species of bacteria in our gut, and also the fact that each of that group of bacteria, for example like lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, like different kinds of species are there, and each one of them has a specific function. So they help our body to do a specific function. Like for example, lactobacillus mainly helps us with like dealing with making sure the digestion is properly going. That's why in case of people who suffer with constipation and stuff, usually we recommend them to like drink buttermilk or eat yogurt, all these things, because that contains the lactobacillus, which helps us to have a proper digestion. Similarly, there are a group of bacteria for the estrogen metabolism to happen properly, and this bacteria are called estrobolome. So this group of bacteria ensure or make sure that if you have a good amount of this estrobolome, then this bacteria will help us to have a proper functioning estrogen in our body, or maintain that whatever the excess estrogen after the estrogen is released is to, so that it is properly excreted from our body. But if you don't have that good gut health, and if you have some dysbiosis going on and you're not taking proper care of your gut, it could mess up with this estrobolome, which is the type of bacteria, and that could result you in having estrogen imbalance, like estrogen dominance, or having less estrogen. Then having less estrogen could cause problems with progesterone and all those things, because female hormones are progesterone and estrogen work so closely, and again they have an interconnected relationship. If one of those hormone is not working properly, that could impact the other one as well. So in that way, both the hormones and gut, or female hormones especially, and gut are interconnected. But all the other hormones like stress and everything is also interconnected. But mainly female hormones, that is how they are interconnected.
And what are some causes of this gut dysbiosis that you see in your practice? I know we talk about stress all the time and we talk about poor diet, but are there any specific, things you're seeing right now with COVID, or any repeating patterns that you see in your patients which creates a lot of gut dysbiosis?
So the number one factor or the number one cause is excessive consumption of processed foods. So like how our digestion gets, as per Ayurveda, we say that, if you, like, all food goes through some form of a processing, but we are not talking about the natural processing like heating it, boiling it, cooking it, but we are talking about the chemical processing where the chemical structure is altered, and also additives, especially additives and preservatives, like the way instant food that we buy, like the frozen pizza, or like the instant noodles, not all of them, some of them, uh, like like the instant food where you get packaged, because for it to keep healthy, to keep it safe, or like for us to eat it after a couple of days, they add these additives and preservatives. These preservatives and additives are known to cause this dysbiosis, and that is the number one reason I see in my practice. In like 90% of the women I work with, the first thing is, if we remove that processed food, like all this outside food, instantly you eat, then their gut actually gets a lot better. So that, I would say, that's the number one reason that causes dysbiosis, because our gut bacteria gets confused. If you have a food in its whole form, like the foods like whole foods, we eat wholemeal bread and all that, our gut bacteria like that fiber in them. That fiber is insoluble and it acts as a food for them, and they enjoy digesting it, and that way their health is also improved and they work properly to improve our gut health. But when we are eating these ultra fine, refined, processed foods, because of having these additives, which actually mess up with the gut bacteria, like they increase the bad bacteria, like the yeast and the bacteria which are, inflammatory, they increase when we eat too much of these chemicals and additives. That is the bad thing. That is the side effect of that. And the other thing is they can't properly process them. So there are even studies which say that if we eat too much of this food with chemical additives and preservatives, that actually creates imbalance in the gut. So that's the number one reason. The second reason I would say is antibiotics. So if you are taking too much antibiotics, like for any reason, like for having infections, and painkillers like the NSAIDs, like ibuprofen and all these things, if you are regularly taking them, that is another reason which can again trigger this dysbiosis in our gut. So these are the two main causes, I would say, pertaining to our modern lifestyle, along with other things like stress, not having good diet. They are all there anyway. But these two things are very important, which we can actually do something about.
Yeah. And that's a very well made point. The first point that you talked about processed foods, and uh, I also work a lot with nutrition here. So I've seen so many fake foods, we can- or we talk like they're marketed as health foods and they're really healthy energy bars, but these are all devoid of prana. Some of them have tons of calories and tons of sugar to give that instant burst of energy, but they don't have any nutritional value. And your point like really hits home that if you're not feeding the bacteria, they're not going to stay in your body for a long time, so your good bacteria need food. You always have to focus on ensuring that they're eating as well. If you starve, you're not going to survive the same way. If they starve, they're not going to survive as well. So the survival of good bacteria is crucial. So taking the processed foods out and avoiding unnecessary antibiotics, or unnecessary painkillers, that would be definitely, there's a time and place for everything, but you do not need to keep taking antibiotics for longer periods of time. If you're constantly getting infections, it is time to reevaluate your immune system and your own health. So that is Really good. What about estrogen? You also talked about estrogen being high in some people or the ratio going off. So, are there some causes where, you can see that a woman has excess estrogen?
Um, like causes, or you mean like symptoms of excess estrogen?
Symptoms, as well as like what can cause the estrogen to go out of balance, or
Dominance.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there are like nowadays the food again, we go back to the food industry. I think most of the problems that we are facing, at least in this century, are more prone because of the how the food is processed, how it is actually by the time the food is coming to a plate, it is going through lot of processing and lot of additives and all these things. This is again also comes to estrogen because all the milk, the dairy, why a lot of people are nowadays having these dairy intolerances. Other time I did a live, someone also asked me the same question, why Ayurveda recommends dairy, but dairy causes so many problems. So why are you recommending people to eat dairy? You know that dairy causes this. Why are you recommending? But the point is, dairy is not the problem actually here, or the food which we are eating is not the problem, but how it is processed, the
Mhm.
source of the food, like the source of the dairy. So if you're drinking milk from like just a normal milk that you get from supermarket, there is no guarantee that it didn't came from a cow which has been injected with estrogen injections, because the cows, like humans, also need estrogen, and they give this estrogen injection so that it induces the milk production and they get more milk to sell. This is
Mhm.
like a marketing thing they do. But because of we drinking this excess estrogen which is coming from another animal source, or you eat the meat like they eat the chicken and everything, then the chickens and all these things could also be going through the same thing where they inject the estrogen for them to lay eggs and all those things. So because of all these artificial hormones going into the food source that we are eating and drinking, what is happening is when this artificial estrogen, it's not in our body, right? Or even if you can call that phytoestrogen, we call it, when it goes inside our body is quite confused.
Mhm.
And sometimes this can actually trigger, like either it can make the estrogen in our body to overwork, like create the dominance, or it
Mhm.
will make it to not work at all. So there is a problem of both of them going, because it is not a natural thing for our body to have something so much from the outside source. Like if you're drinking everyday dairy came from a cow which is injected with this estrogens for years together, then your body metabolism is also being messed up, right? So that is one of the very common reason. So it's important to, that is why we recommend to have organic milk, but also from a farm. Like there are farm symbols, and then there are also anti cruelty symbols nowadays on the food. So if you go and choose milk from those things, it's not only healthy all, but also it ensures that those cows are not given these hormonal injections or anything, and you are getting that prana, and also it's not messing up with the natural physiology happening in your body. So that's the first thing for estrogen dominance. And the other thing is like having excessive stress, and nowadays the lifestyle where sleep, not having enough sleep can have a huge impact on all the female hormones in our body. So that is another reason I would say. But yeah, food is the main thing I commonly see in practice, that if you are not getting source of food, which you are getting the all this food diary and everything, then that could easily lead to estrogen dominance. And the another important thing is hormones, artificial hormones. Like if you are taking pills for not getting period, or using it as a contraceptive, that creates a lot of what do you call that, it messes up with the homogenesis of your body. So whatever the balance that your body is having, then it will actually create a ripple, like so that is another reason. So these are the main reasons I would say for women to experience estrogen dominance.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. Like we think, giving hormonal pills for estrogen issues is counterintuitive because it's going to create further, estrogen dominance, right? You're already not having cycles because your ratio of, estrogen progesterone is haywire, and then women are put on pills. And yeah, what about stress? You mentioned stress, and women think about stress as, oh, everybody's stressed, it's something I have to live with. But women don't really identify it as something that's making your hormones go out of balance, or that it's one of the main factors that's causing so much inflammation on the body. So how do like stress hormones make your female hormones go out of balance?
Okay, so the main thing we need to understand is there is cortisol, right? So whenever you're feeling stress, the main hormone that is released is cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So the cortisol is released from the adrenal glands. And the funny thing here that when doctors say, okay, don't stress, to women that, okay, reduce the stress in your life, and otherwise you don't conceive, or reduce the stress in your life, that's why menstrual cycle is not good. They don't tell you why they are saying stress, reduce stress, because cortisol and progesterone are made up of same chemicals, like same formula in a way. Okay, so whenever our body feels like stressed and all, it usually, our body can't differentiate between whether it is like it's a very dangerous kind of stress, like somebody is in your car, somebody is hit you with their car, or that kind of danger, versus you running late to office, or getting your boss is going to shout at you, that kind of stress. Because the first one is a dangerous dangerous stress, the second one is like everyday stress where you'll be fine with it, you can live with it, right? But for our body there is no difference between two of them. So what happens is, whenever this stress situation is come, so imagine every day you are running late to pick your kids, you are running late for meeting, you are doing something, somebody said something negative, even that will be considered as stress for you. So even all this mundane stress that we face every day, our body thinks that, oh, I need to release cortisol. Okay, that's fine, cortisol is released, there is no problem with release of cortisol. But the problem only arises when every day the body has to produce too much cortisol. So over the period of time, you are in a chronic induced stress, like the way our lifestyle nowadays, modern lifestyle is there, where continuously every hour we are bombarded with stress from every angle of our life.
Mhm.
So then what body does is, because it need more stress hormone, body is thinking this is a dangerous situation, I need to make you survive. Survival is the instinct here as human beings, okay? So then what it does is, because progesterone is also the same hormone, which is again meant with, can you still hear me? I think your image is frozen. I'm not sure. Are you still there, Manjuri?
Yeah, I'm back. Saturday morning. Yeah, yeah, no, that's good, go ahead.
Yeah, so like that, what it does is it takes away all the hormones from our reproductive system, like the progesterone, the reserves of progesterone and everything, and then it will start converting that into cortisol. Because it is thinking that, oh, I need to make sure that you are survived first, then I'll think about reproduction and menstrual cycle and all these things. These are not important for our body when it comes to you living alive, right? So
Yeah.
this is what happening whenever we are overstressed. So when you are not managing stress, we cannot definitely avoid stress, but we can, sorry, eliminate stress from our lives, but we can find ways to manage it. If you are not managing stress in your day-to-day life, this is what happening in the physiology. So every time you are feeling stressed and every day you are stressed, your body is trying to take out all the reproductive hormones and converting it into cortisol. So over a period of time, you have less progesterone. And the other thing is, whenever progesterone can be converted into estrogen as well. So progesterone is this amazing gift for us that every time you have less estrogen, body converts some of the progesterone into estrogen. But if there is no progesterone, the progesterone is used to cortisol, then you are end up with having an imbalance of progesterone. And also over a time, estrogen will also go low because there is no enough estrogen as well. So that why stress is like plays a huge role, especially for women, for having all the reproductive system. Not only that, for overall health. So it's important to make sure that you're managing it every day.
Yeah.
Basically, try find ways.
Yeah, and the one thing I tell, a lot of my clients is, we always talk about estrogen. Nobody sadly talks about progesterone, but it's the Zen hormone, right? It keeps you calm and
Yes.
centered rather than, making you go crazy with all your stress hormones. You also work a lot with PCOS, PCOD clients, right? So would you like to share a little bit about how these conditions can also or these hormonal conditions can occur, and do you see any kind of gut imbalances in these conditions as well?
Oh, yes. I think in most of the hormonal conditions, because we work, like you will understand as well, like as per Ayurveda, everything is interconnected to your Agni, and having a good digestion is the main key for being healthy, along
Mhm,
with other factors as well. So, but in my practice, most of the time, 80% of the time, women with hormonal imbalances have one or other nagging issue with their gut, like even as slightest as bloating. They don't take it as serious. They think everybody everybody has this and I don't have to take it seriously. But those kind of symptoms are clues to say that their gut is also out of imbalance. And that's how they end up having more hormonal issues over the years. Because if you don't fix your gut, the inflammation could cause, like, because the gut is a very huge organ and it has impact on several different organs as well. That includes the hormonal function. So that's how. But yeah, coming to PCOS and PCOD. So PCOS is a very complex metabolic condition. So polycystic ovarian syndrome. So we see this in starting in very young age in women when they start their menstruation. Long from as long as they could remember, women will say that they have a irregular pattern in their menstrual cycle. Like every 2 months it started. Even from the day one, I never had a regular cycle. That is the first sign usually, which indicates that there might be some hormonal imbalance which is very deep seated. And the other thing is that to have facial hair and unwanted hair growth is a very cosmetic and as well as a psychological problem for women with PCOS, because it affects your confidence, right? And also
mhm,
acne, hormonal acne. So they also have this menstrual acne whenever the period comes, or during the period time they have very like pimples on their, here mainly on the chin and on the back. Some women have on here as well. So these are the main common symptoms that we see with PCOS. And if you try to fix your gut in even in the PCOS and PCOD, then you would see like 50% of the symptoms will improve.
mhm,
Because the problem with PCOS, at least, is that there is a insulin resistance, which is the main thing. So the metabolism is not happening properly. The glucose, whichever we are eating, it's not properly consumed by the cell and overly converted into fat. That's why they have a problem of losing weight and what do you call this, fat in their belly, lower abdomen. You see excessive fat retention. So that is also because of the same reason, that glucose is not properly utilized. Because they are not getting enough energy as well, they feel fatigue all the time. So we can't advise them to go and do excessive exercise, because that would be cruel for them, right? Because they don't have any energy to begin with. So that's why the fatigue is another issue. So very important to fix the routine. So routine is very important. So eating on time ensures that whatever the food that you are eating, you are at least getting little bit of energy. And then working with like fixing your Agni, like Trikatu, with improving the metabolism is another thing that they should focus on. But it depends on specific symptoms a woman has, how we can actually help them. But I would say, try to, first thing is to look at your routine, and then diet. Reducing this white goods is very good. Eating whole foods will keep you full for a long time, like protein. And then brown foods like brown bread and brown pasta or brown rice, these things. Rice is up to some extent okay, but still, like quinoa, these things will keep you full for a long time, so that you don't feel tired very quickly.
mhm.
So these are the things I would say one should look for.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And the one thing I have seen is, with PCOS, already your body is going through a lot of changes. And then there is that causes a lot of psychological, emotional stress as well. and then the stress hormones further increase your blood sugar, because that's what they do,
Yeah.
and there's further insulin resistance. So it's kind of the whole vicious cycle that keeps starting. But those are some, really good points you made. Now you also have a book which you just released, which I'm really excited about. You're talking about an Ayurvedic guide to heal the gut. So I'm just going to go back to that and talk about, like, are there any tips you can give us about healing our gut, and why did you choose to write this amazing book?
Oh, so it is a ebook, electronic book. But because half of the time in my Instagram, like you said, I do a lot of work on Instagram and try to educate women a lot about their health, Ayurveda, gut health, and everything. But often women get lost because there is like huge information overload which is outside, and you don't know where to start. And
Mhm.
most of the thing, I think there is a very few people who are working from Ayurveda on gut health, you can say. Even though the core of Ayurveda is Agni and fixing it, we have different modalities, right? So
Yeah.
I received so many messages, and every day I receive messages from saying that, okay, can you give me something how to get started? Like, I don't know where to get started. I have all these problems. And some people can't afford working one to one with a Ayurvedic practitioner like myself or yourself. Then I wanted to create this guide so that they can read that and they understand where they are at their health and how they could get started and what are the simple things that they could put into practice into their day to day life, and not get confused with this all this over information overload of things that are in the internet nowadays. So that is the main reason for writing that book. And it is a very simple, and also you can call it, how to call it, it exactly, there are steps that I use in my practice to help women heal their gut. Similar thing, I talk about how you actually everything is interconnected and why routine is so important, like the circadian rhythm. That is the first thing as women we should focus on if we want to heal ourselves as a whole. Anything in our body, whether it's hormones, gut, anything, I would say that's the first thing, even in my practice, I believe. So I talk about circadian rhythm and how to do simple natural probiotics at home. There are recipes for it as well in that. And other things like how to examine your stool. Often we don't look at our, our stool as this huge guide, but for our gut health, stool acts, or our poop acts as a biggest clue. Like if you look at your poop, you can learn a lot about your gut, like what is going, whether what you're eating is properly digested and you're getting nourishment properly, or you're having trouble. So all these things you can learn from just by simply paying attention. So our body is so amazing, isn't it? It's like it gives all these important clues to you, like I need attention, can you please help me, can you fix me? So it's screaming for help all the time. So it's about us to look and then help it in a way. So it contains all these different things. So yeah, it's very exciting. And a lot of people, as soon as they read it, they send me messages saying that, oh, we love it, the way you connected everything, which I didn't think before. That's the amazing thing about Ayurveda. It makes the connection. You can feel why this is happening to me. That is the often we are so disconnected, isn't it? You don't know why this food is making me feel such way. Like eating chilies and peppers, then you are later you think that, oh, my stomach is burning and all. But Ayurveda gives you that connection to make sure that you are interconnected with yourself inside, not like how we are disconnected. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, beautifully put. You have, like, a lot of the times, people lose that intuitive eating, paying attention to themselves. And, I have so many clients who will come to me and ask me, "Oh, what should I eat?" You just tell me. I don't care if I like it or not, and I'm just gonna eat it. Give me a diet, I'll follow that. And I'm like, no, like, nobody should be putting anything in their mouth which they absolutely hate. You're not going to digest it. It's not going to help you. And in the name of health, so many different things are sold. So thank you for the wonderful work. I'm going to say a quick hi to Pratibha as well as Bonaria is here. Mayuri is here as well. So, what I'm going to do is I've also posted links to the book, right? So, the book is extremely affordable. You can click on the link and you can purchase the book. Mayuri is here as well. She's asking for some more information on PCOS.
Okay, so yeah, so PCOS, like I said, so insulin resistant. So coming to the point of food, so white sugar in my practice. So like for everybody, I think whoever is watching, I have done a lot of research on white sugar, and there is lot of out studies that have been done about sugar. And sugar is one thing that we don't need to add to our food, to be honest. But we have been brainwashed to, I think, to a point where we think that without sugar we can't survive. But naturally, all the foods that we eat, like fruit, has sugar in it, dates has sugar in it, so we are getting that sugar, and our body is so intelligent that even if we eat fat, it can convert that into sugar to utilize it. So we don't need to have added sugar, and especially white sugar is linked to chronic inflammation in our body. So for all the women, whoever is suffering with PCOS, if there is any one ingredient that I would say 100% take off the table, that is white sugar, because of all the carbs. Because normally women has this, or there is a myth to say that dairy is really bad for PCOS. The first thing doctors recommend for women who are diagnosed with PCOS is to take the dairy off the table. But as per Ayurveda, you know that milk is so important for our hormones because it's nourishing. If it is coming from a good source, milk is an absolutely ojo vardaka, means
Yeah.
it improves the ultimate nourishment in our body and nourishes all the seven tissues in our body. But because we are not getting enough good sourced milk, it's okay to avoid it. But that's not the main thing that one should avoid. White sugar is the first thing I would say. Replace it with alternatives. Brown sugar is okay, but if you reduce the intake of sugar in day to day, the inflammation because of PCOS in your gut is huge. That will reduce very quickly. And the other thing is to make sure that you are eating enough protein and fat. You can reduce the content of carbs you are eating, because carbs can make you feel, again, quickly you'll feel depleted of energy and you'll feel fatigued. To
Mhm.
help with that, I usually recommend the clients to increase the protein intake in their diet. So improve, even if you eat meat, lean meat like chicken is a good source. So egg is a good protein. So all these things help you to keep full, and replace all the white goods with brown goods. That is very, very good. You will feel, initially women will say, I'm having food cravings and all these things, but it takes time for your body to adjust because you're used to certain kind of food. But once you change this, you will see a huge difference in the way your body is reacting to, or in the way you're able to sustain energy, do little bit more physical activity, all these things. And the other thing is to sleep early and don't eat after 7 o'clock. That is one thing that does wonders to all of us, I would say. No matter what kind of health condition you have, or whether you are healthy or unhealthy, once we don't eat after 7 o'clock, our gut works 10 times better
Yeah.
because you are giving it a rest
Mhm.
in the evening. So, like taking a day off. So, it will feel like, oh, amazing. I can use all this energy to do all the cell repair, protein, protein molecule analysis, all these things, DNA. So, it does all the important necessary things. So, I think these are the main things I would say.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all the wonderful information with us. Any last suggestions, like before we sign off for our viewers, like anything that one thing that you would want everybody to do from
I
today
would
onward?
say, yes. So I would say the takeaway would be to do with the fact that nowadays we are so disconnected. Like, one thing I one thing I think everyone can relate, like whatever the things that we do in life, like eating, as simple as an act of eating, we are not paying attention. So
Mhm.
even if you eat something you like, even if it's a chocolate, it doesn't matter. Even if it's pizza, it doesn't matter. Whatever you are eating, I want you to think it as an important act. Like, everything became an automated thing. We hardly look at the food that we are eating, we hardly try to give it any attention, but we need to put that energy so that it becomes the ultimate prana or source fuel for our body. Okay, so it's so important that we connect with whatever the work what we are doing. Like, if you are in a meeting, how you pay attention to someone if somebody is speaking to you, similarly if you are eating food, you need to pay attention to it, looking at it, what is there, what has gone into making that. If somebody made in your family, like your mother or your wife or someone else, always trying to saying them thank you for feeding me, right? It is an important thing. Whatever the money we make or how big you become, end of the day we still have to eat food. So that is like the very important thing in our life for our health. So I would say please try to pay attention to the food. That's the ultimate thing, I would say. If once you start paying to attention to that, your health, everything in your life will change, I would say. So yeah, that's the takeaway.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I have one more question. So Uttamji is asking, is milk okay after 7 p.m.?
Yes, you can add a simple, like little bit of nutmeg, maybe a pinch of nutmeg, and if you have shunt, like dry ginger powder, a little bit of that to make it easier to digest. If you add that, you can still drink milk. It's fine.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for the lovely session. Vimarsha is saying thank you. Shane is saying thank you. I'm saying super thanks. So okay, for everybody else, we've posted the links to the book. So please check it out. It's really affordable and it is something that you can start doing, implementing right away to help, have your health back on track, right? So please check out the link to the book and feel free to purchase it. That's really going to help you move forward. Thank you so much, Dr. Varalakshmi. I'm also excited. I know I'll be having you back. So we are planning a good event for Ayurveda Day, which is November 13th, which is also Dhanteras or Dhanatrayadashi. So all the Ayurvedic fraternity celebrates this amazing day as Ayurveda Day. So I'm still prepping the back end of it. So I will have more details in the next few sessions. But I'm super excited to say that Dr. Vara is going to join us for the Ayurveda Day celebrations. And it's going to be a live event. We have lots of prizes, giveaways, and so everybody celebrates Ayurveda, right? That's what we all want. So thank you so much, Dr. Varalakshmi.
Yes, I think